So, one thing I noticed as I was doing my research, Arlo, is that you do a lot of interviews.
Yes.
It must get a little tiring after a while, but
Well, I'm always curious as to what someone has to
yeah,
wants to
and
know.
I must admit they gave me some ideas too. So, Collapsed and Sunbeams came out literally when the world seemed to collapse right before the pandemic hit. So, it must have been frustrating just as you were releasing this new music that you weren't able to get out on a stage and perform to people for such a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially at the time, I spent so long in this really kind of insular process actually making the record that I was craving just being out in the world and sharing it. But actually, when I did get to play shows, I found that people had kind of lived with the record through these really tough, trying times, and it had almost kind of cemented the record in their lives and meant that the shows were even more electrifying than maybe they would have been. So, yeah.
And now that the world is beginning to let go a little bit, the pandemic is beginning to let go, people actually get to experience that
Yeah.
live show that they were missing all of that time.
And I've definitely felt it. I felt that palpable. It almost feels like when you're a teenager and you like go to your first gig and you like have it months in advance, planned out that sense of like really pure excitement.
They've been waiting so long for this moment to
Yeah,
come.
exactly.
So you describe both of your parents as extroverts. So would you say that you sort of follow in the same vein? Would you call yourself an extrovert?
I am actually quite extroverted. I think I'm quite a calm extrovert. Like I feel recharged when I'm around people for sure, but when I write I have to be by myself.
Well, I mean, when you face it, you have to be some sort of extrovert to get out on a stage, right?
True.
In front of thousands of people, most of whom you don't know, and just pour out the most intimate feelings and emotions from your heart and soul. So not anybody can do that.
You're right. I feel like I definitely know a few introverts who kind of just shakily put themselves out there, and I guess it's that desire for connection, right? You can be introverted and still have that desire to share your work with people.
The need, too, sometimes.
Exactly.
So I know you've been into journaling for a long time, since you were really just a teenager, if not even sooner. And you wrote in your journal once when you were 13, I want to make music because I want to help people. What did you mean by that? I
guess I had found that music had really helped me and had kind of made me better understand myself, and I guess applied words to feelings that I felt were so knotted and complicated I couldn't even describe them. So I found that music is that kind of balm, that healing force for me, and I wanted to do that for other people.
You're a self-described empath. You have very strong empathetic feelings towards people. That can be a pretty heavy weight, though, can't it?
Definitely. I think as an artist and just like as a human being, I definitely absorb a lot from the people around me, and I think it's a blessing because it means that I can better tap into just this place of compassion when I am telling stories, but it does mean I'm often overwhelmed.
It's amazing to see. We could see it in the live show tonight, but just in general, the way people relate to your songs. And your songs are not necessarily about yourself either. They're, many of them, if not most, are stories about other people. Why do you think it is that people can relate to your songs and make that connection so well?
I'm not 100% sure. I guess I'd like to think it's because I'm just being honest about the things that I'm seeing around me, and a lot of the things that I write about are things that people have experienced or loved ones around them have experienced, but I try not to think about it too much. Like, why do people like this? I tend to just kind of make things that feel good to me.
Well, there's a rawness about your songs, too, that I think exposes not only a side of your own self, but of other people as well. I think there's that connection in itself.
Yeah.
And you also have not been shy about addressing the mental health crises, many different kinds of crises that have afflicted the world, not only in this pandemic time, but just in general in the modern world that we live in today. Why is that important to you?
I think it's because, a lot of the people around me, and especially growing up, did struggle, and I see a lot of people around me struggle now, and I think that when you talk about something, then shame kind of loses its grip. And I'm, again, just writing about what I see around me, and now that I have a little bit of a voice or platform, just trying to use that for good.
I know some people have suggested that you are a voice, so to speak, of your generation of Gen Z. But also one of the cool and unique things about the way that you can relate to people is it goes beyond just a generational thing. People your own age. You can even see it in the house tonight.
Yeah, that's
Older
what I
people,
love.
maybe a generation or maybe two.
Yeah, and I
ahead of
love
you.
that. That's
Yeah.
like the most flattering to me. I'm like, you guys have heard so much music and you still choose to listen to me. So, yeah.
So your musical influences come from all over, and I know your parents had a lot to do with that. I'm interested in particular about your jazz influences. Was that from your
my
mother or
dad.
father, or just in general? What kind of jazz exposure to jazz did you have when you were younger?
So my dad, he basically listens exclusively to jazz. I did manage to convince him to listen to Paranoid Android. So it's jazz and Paranoid Android are the only two things that he listens to. And he was actually telling me a story of when he like went to St. Lucia Jazz Festival with my mom when they were first dating, and he's just like a jazz fanatic. But really it was everything from like Mingus to Gillespie, and like I listened to a lot of soul as well at the same time, and everything from like, you know, Ella Fitzgerald to like Chet Baker, and it felt like it was this kind of jazz overload when I was a kid, and so I was almost like, I don't want to listen to jazz. I want to listen to something with words. Like I want to like grab onto something. And then I think now, as I get older, I feel jazz seeping into myself a lot more. And you know, especially when it comes to jazz vocalists, listening a lot more to like Nina Simone and like Billie Holiday, and just kind of leaning into that rawness again, because I feel like jazz is the rawest form, especially when it comes to how fluid and formless it can be. For sure.
You can hear that in your singing too.
Thank you.
It's definitely there. So aside from music, you've said that literature has had a huge influence on you. And I thought it was interesting when you talked about the influence of literature that it seemed like it wasn't so much the stories or the plots in a lot of what you read. Well, what was it?
I just really like words. Like I would read the dictionary as a kid and pick things that I liked out. I can't explain it. I think for me it's when I read a book, I am paying attention to the story and the way that characters are developed, and I try and put that in my songs as I would, you know, absorb films and see how the characters develop and try and apply that to my own work. But for me it's just words. Like I'm just so hungry for new ways of capturing feelings and things, and I just have these long like notebooks entirely full of just words that I picked out of books that I've read. And they're not even like big words or complicated words. I just like them. Ever since I was a kid, I've always just been a collector, I guess, of words.
Words are fascinating. They can mean, one word can mean so many different things.
100%.
Even the way you say it.
Yeah.
So you also say you're a massive dreamer. You have all kinds of dreams about things that you would like to do, including writing a book, directing a film. Well, what comes next?
I'm doing a lot of writing and a lot of playing shows. That's kind of what my focus is at the moment. It feels like it's been so long since I've been kind of out in the world, so I'm basking in that, having my first ever festival season. But writing, right now I'm in my writing, absorbing sponge mode, and just I'm in the lab, cooking and seeing what happens.
Well, now that you're out there in the big wide world, there's a lot to absorb.
For sure, yeah.
Well, best of luck to you. This has been great tonight. And I know you've got a long road ahead of you and full of adventure, and I'm sure it'll be full of fun too. So thanks for being a part of Austin City Limits History
thanks for
tonight.
having me, Terry. I appreciate it.